Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be making the tutorial for this shirt. I posted the pictures a while back and you guys asked for a tutorial, so here we go. Okay, so for this project, these are the materials you are going to need. You are going to need a yarn, of course. I made this cake yarn myself. It's so beautiful. So I put in 3 strands together. I want this short to be a little bit fuller. Don't worry, in one of my tutorials, I'm going to show you how I made it. All right. And you are going to need a measurement tape. Then you're going to need a tapestry needle to weave in your ends. You're going to need some stitch markers, a scissors, of course. And on this project, I'm going to be working with a 4mm hook size. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so for the measurement, you are going to take around your hips. All right, because that is what we are going to use to create the band that we are going to be starting with. All right, so go ahead now and take your hips measurements, and then you have to measure the length where you want your shorts to get to, and then it won't hurt to actually measure your thighs as well. All right, don't worry, as we go along, I'm going to be explaining to you why you need to take these measurements because they are very important. So right now we are going to be starting with the band of this short. All right, so my hips is 44, so that is the exact inches I'm going to be making for the band. All right, so chain up 12, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, I forgot to mention we are actually working vertically. All right, that's why we're chaining 12, because this is how the band is going to go. All right, so what you're going to do now is chain 1 after you get your 12, and then do a single crochet on the very next stitch. All right, so go ahead to do single crochet on this first row and I will meet you here. All right, okay, so I've gotten to the end of the row 1 of the single crochets. So now what you do, you're going to chain up 1 and then turn your work, and on the very first stitch right here, put in a normal single crochet. And then on the next stitch, you are going to be working the back loops only. All right, so take the back loops and just do a single crochet. All right, let me show you. So you see this line right here, go in there and just pick just the back loop and make a single crochet. All right, so keep doing this until the very end here. The reason why we are doing this one, I want the band to have this elastic feel, and when you work the back loops only, it gives it this elastic feel. Don't worry, when I'm done with the entire band, I'll show you what I mean by the elastic feel. All right, so on this row now, you just go ahead to do your single crochets on the back loops only until you get to the very end right here, and put in a regular single crochet at the very end. You don't have to do a back loop only on this end part, just going to put a regular single crochet at the end right here. So that is what you are going to be doing for the band. Okay, so you start with a regular single crochet, picking the 2, not just the back loop, on the very first stitch, and then you work the remaining ones on the back loop until you get to the second to last stitch. Then on the last stitch, pick up the 2, not just the back. All right, so you begin with the normal regular single crochet, picking the front and the back, and end with that as well. All right, so that is what you do for the entire length of this particular band. So now chain 1 again, turn your work, and on this first stitch, like I've explained, go in with a regular single crochet, and on the next stitch, go in with a back loop only single crochet, and do that until you get to the second to the last stitch, and you pick both the stitch again and do your regular single crochet and you chain 1. Just keep doing that until you get the length of your hips. All right, so like I said, mine is 44. I'm just going to go ahead now and finish my band, and I'll come back to show you what we're going to do next. Okay, so I've gotten to the end of the single crochet row for my band. So this is how it's looking now. I ended up doing 120 rows of single crochet to get my size. So the next step now is going to be joining the band together. All right, so let me bring the camera down a bit so you see what I'm doing. All right, so in order to join this band together, you're going to chain 1 and then turn your work. So you bring the other side of the band here. Okay, so now you're going to be going into the very first stitch right here. Oh, let me remove this one. Okay, so what you do now, you go into the very first stitch right here. Please just watch what I'm doing carefully. Go into the first stitch on the second band, and then go to the first one where you're coming from, to the very first stitch. You know, when we were working on the band, we were doing back loops only. So when you are sewing it together, you are going to be doing just the front loops only on the joining. Okay, so the very first one, you have to take 2 of the loops like we've been doing, all right, and make a slip knot. Okay, so for the next one now, go into this side of the band, take the regular stitch, and then go to this part and take the front loop only on this other side and make a slip stitch, because we are joining with a slip stitch. All right, so going to the regular stitch from this part of the band, and this part you go in with just the front loop, front loop only, and make a slip stitch. So on the next stitch, you go in with your regular stitch from here, and on the next one, go in with the front loops only and do a slip stitch. So this is how you are going to be joining the 2 parts together with a slip stitch. All right, let me show you the back. So you see, you want everything to blend in together. That's why you're using the front loops only, the back front loops only, instead of the back loop that you've been using for the creation of the band. All right, so you go ahead now to do your slip stitch until you get to this part, and I'll come back to show you what we're doing next. All right, okay, so I'm done joining the 2 together. So this is how it's looking. All right, and like I told you, you see it has this elastic effect. So the next step now is going to be working a single crochet all around the band. All right, so what you're going to do now is you're going to chain 1 and turn your work to the front, because where you joined happened to be the back, so you turn it to the front. So this is how the front is looking. All right, so what you're going to do now is create a single crochet all around the band. So chain 1, and on this very first stitch right here, put in a single crochet, and on the next stitch put in a single crochet. So you go ahead and keep working single crochets all around the band, and I'll meet you here to tell you what to do next. Okay, so I've gotten to the end of the first row of the single crochets. So the next step now is going to be making double crochets all around. And another thing is, make sure you are counting your stitches. All right, like I told you, to get the band I had to do 120 rows of single crochet on the band. So when I did my single crochet all across the band, now I got 120 stitches on there. All right, so that is what you're supposed to get. Whatever rows you get here, make sure that's a stitch of single crochet that you got on this part of the single crochet. So like I said, now the next step is going to be doing a double crochet all around it. All right, so chain up 2, and on this same stitch put in a double crochet. So on the next stitch put in a double crochet. So this is just the pattern you are going to follow for this particular row until you get to this point, and I'll come show you what to do next, because the next row is going to be an increase row. Okay, so you go ahead now to do your double crochet all around, and I'll meet you here. All right. Okay, so I'm done with the first round of double crochet, the first row. So like I told you, this second row is going to be an increase row. All right, so the increase is going to be taking place in the very middle of the skirt. All right, so this is where I ended. So as you can see, I put a stitch marker on the very next stitch right here. Okay, so you go ahead now to make your counts. Make sure you count the exact amount you have to get to the middle of the shorts. Okay, so we are going to be increasing in the places that the stitch marker is right now. So you go ahead and mark your own before you start. All right, so let me bring it down so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so for the increase, where you stop your very first row of double crochet now, all right, you're going to chain up 2. I chained up 1 already. So on that same stitch, you're going to be putting 1 double crochet, and on the very next stitch, which is where the stitch marker is right now, you're going to put in 2 double crochet on that stitch. So that's our first increase. 1 and then 2. Okay, so now on each stitch you're just going to be putting in 1 double crochet all around in each stitch until you get to this next stitch marker here. All right, just exactly on the middle here. So when you get to this stitch marker, you are going to be putting in 2 double crochet on this part as well. Okay, then we put 2 double crochet here, then continue with 1 double crochet until you get to the end here. And when you get to this end here, I'll come back to show you what we'll do next. Okay, so I've gotten to the end of row 2, which is our first row of increase. I'm just going to slip stitch here now on the very last stitch right here, the very first stitch we made. All right, so this is the end of this row. So for the next row, which is row 3, the second row of increase, like I call it, you're going to chain up 2, and on that same stitch you're going to put in 1 double crochet as usual. Then on the next stitch you are going to put in 1 double crochet, and on the next stitch, that is where we are going to be doing the increase. All right, so you put in 1 double crochet regular, 1 double crochet regular on the first 2 stitches, and on the third stitch you are going to be putting 2 double crochet there, and on the next stitch you are going to put in 2 double crochet. So this time around we are increasing on 2 stitches. Okay, so regular double crochet, and on the third stitch you put in 2 double crochet, and on the next stitch you put in 2 double crochet. Okay, so now you continue putting in 1 double crochet until you get to the next increase point, which is the middle of the short. All right, so go ahead now, keep putting 1 double crochet until you get to this other point and do exactly the same thing. All right, so you put 2 double crochet on the first stitch where the stitch marker is, and on the second stitch you put in another 2 double crochet. That is our second increase for this row. Okay, so when you finish putting your increases here, go ahead and put in 1 double crochet all across until you get to this point, and I'll meet you here to tell you what the next step is going to be. Okay, so I've gotten to the end of this row. That's our second row of increase. That's our row 3. All right, so for the row 4, I'm just going to be doing 1 more increase. So I will slip stitch now on the very first stitch right here. So to begin this row, you are going to chain up 2, and on that same stitch you are going to put in 1 double crochet in here, and on the next stitch you put in 1 double crochet. So on the next 5 stitch, you are going to be putting in 1 regular double crochet. Okay, so put in 5 double crochets as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And on the 6th stitch, that is where you are going to be doing your increase. So on this stitch now, which is the 6th stitch, put in 2 double crochet on that stitch. So that's going to be the increase. Okay, so now keep putting in 1 double crochet on each of the stitches until you get to this part again where the stitch marker is, and do exactly the same thing on this part. So the 2 double crochets of increase is going to be happening on the exact stitch where the stitch marker is. Okay, so put in your 2 double crochet of increase on that stitch and put in 1 double crochet all across again. Excuse me. Put in 1 double crochet all across again, and when you get to this point, I'll show you what we're going to do next. Okay, so I've gotten to the end of my increase row. So I increased in 3 rows, as you've seen already. So now we have 4 rows. So the next step now, we are not going to be doing any increase anymore. We are going to be going around with just 1 double crochet on each stitch until we get to 15 rows. All right, because my own measurement is 8 inches. Okay, and my measurement is 44, my hips is 44, so I'm doing 8 inches on the body part before we start on the bottom parts, which is the thighs part, or the thighs part of the shorts. All right, so I don't know what your measurement is, but if you want your shorts to be high waist, just go ahead to put the rows that you want to be. But I always advise, as you do it, always try it on to know where you want to stop, because that's the easy way to actually know what you're doing. Like me, if I don't want to try it on my own self, I put it on my mannequin. All right, but if you do not have a mannequin, just use your body to do the trying, or if there is someone around you for you to see what you're doing clearly. All right, but my own measurement now is going to be 8 inches, and my 8 inches happen to be 15 rows. I already have 4 rows, so I'm going off camera now to complete the 11 rows, and I'll come back to show you what we are going to do next. Okay, so the beginning of this row, just the regular double crochet all around, just chain up 2, and on the very first stitch you put in your normal double crochet, and on the next stitch put your normal double crochet. So just go ahead to do regular double crochet all around, and when I get my 15 rows, I'll come back to tell you what we are going to do next. Okay, so I've gotten my 15 rows. So here we go: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So this is where I'm going to be ending the body of my shorts. So now we are going to be working on the thighs area, but this is a little bit tricky. All right, so let me just end this last row now. I'll just put a slip stitch right here to end this row. Okay, so we are not going to be working from this part. I'm just going to be cutting off the yarn from here now. Okay, and then I'm going to tie this part. We are done with this part now. So the measurements of the thighs area, now what you do, you see where you joined your band right here is going to be the side of the shorts, because we don't want this joints here where we go around doing it showing. So it's going to be at the side. Okay, so mark where this joint from the band is and turn it to this side, just like this. Because you remember when we do our increases, we did it in front when we're going the rounds, because I know I was going to do this. That's why I had to do that increase on the sides. All right, so this is how it's looking now. I've gone ahead to actually mark the middle of my shorts where I'm going to be doing the thighs area. So what you're going to do now is mark the middle, make a count and get the middle of this skirt already we have now, and mark the middle. What you do is count it. So put a stitch marker on the 2 sides and make sure you have exactly the count to get to this middle. So you put one stitch marker here and put another stitch marker on this part, so you get the exact middle. Okay, because this is where it's going to be forming the legs. That's where the legs are going to be entering. All right, so when you get your middle right, just put the 2 stitch markers there, and I'll come back to show you what we're going to do next. All right, you're going to be reattaching your yarn on this very middle part where the stitch marker was before. So reattach your yarn here. So now we are going to be making the bridge. That's what I call it, the bridge that is going to create the leg area. All right, so for my own size, I'm making for a large. I am a large. I'm going to be chaining up 20. All right, so I already have one chain right here. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, I can't tell you the exact amount to chain up because your yarn type might be different from my own, your yarn size might be different from my own, your hook size might be different from my own. So if I mention any amount of chain you are supposed to make now, it might be wrong. So I will advise you do your own measurement to get it right before you go ahead to start making it. All right, so here now I have 20 chains. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to make a slip stitch on this other part where the stitch marker is. All right, so I'm just going to remove the stitch marker now and make a slip knot. Please just watch carefully. Okay, I'm going to make a slip knot now where the other stitch marker was. All right, so here we go. Let me take it up so you can see it. So this is it. Cut off your yarn just like this and you tie it off. Okay, so this is how it's going to look. So the next step now is going to be walking around. All right, so now we are going to be walking the first leg. All right, so what you are going to do, you reattach your yarn in the very middle of this bridge of this chain bridge. So like me now, I chained up 20, so mine will be easier to count. I'll just count 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So on the 10th stitch is where I'm going to reattach my yarn. Okay, so reattach your yarn in the very middle. Okay, so we are going to be working these parts of the leg area now. So on this part, chain up 2. Okay, and on that very stitch, put in 1 double crochet just like this. Okay, and on the next stitch, put in 1 double crochet. So this is just the pattern that you are going to follow. Okay, just keep putting in 1 double crochet each on the stitches. So on this bridge chain now, just keep putting in 1 double crochet and make sure you count the stitches to make sure that is the exact chain that is here. You have to put in 1 double crochet on each stitch. So what you're going to do now, go ahead and put 1 double crochet all around on this particular tie part, which is the leg part, and I will meet you when you get to this part again. All right, okay, so I've gotten to the end of the row 1 for the thighs area. So what I'm just going to do now, after getting my 10 here, 10 here, I'm just going to slip stitch on the very first stitch where we started from, right here, to end this row. Okay, then for the next row, just chain up 2, and on that same stitch, put in 1 double crochet. Okay, so that is exactly what you are going to be doing to create this particular thighs area where the leg is going to go through. Okay, so go ahead now and keep putting one double crochet all around until you get to the length that you want. All right, so this is how this one that we started working on now is going. So continue going around with one double crochet all around to create the first leg. So that is where the length that you took of your short comes in. So when you get the length that you want, you should stop. Me, I'm going to go ahead now to put in 6 rows of double crochets on this part of the leg and see if that will be enough for me. If not, I can still continue, but I want to do 6 for now to see how it looks. So when I finish putting in my 6 rows on this part of the leg area, I'll come back to show you how it's looking. Then we'll start on the second leg area. All right. Okay, so I'm done with the first parts of my thighs area, and this is how it's looking so far. So this is how it's looking so far. So we are going to be starting on the second parts of the leg now. Okay, so what you do now, you are going to be attaching your yarn where we started the first one. You're going to be attaching it right here. Okay, let me bring the camera down so you see it clearly. Okay, so take your yarn here and you're going to attach it where we started the first one, like I said. So this is my point where I started the first one. So attach your yarn in that space there and chain up 2. 1, 2. So in that same space, you're going to be putting in 1 double crochet, and on the next stitch you're going to be putting in 1 double crochet. And on the next stitch you're going to be putting in 1 double crochet. So that's just basically what you'll be doing on this side of the leg as well, exactly what you did on this other parts. All right, so keep putting in 1 double crochet on each of the stitch, and make sure you count it, because whatever mistake you didn't make here, if you make it here, then you won't get the right leg size. Okay, so make sure you count your stitches. That's why I always like to use the stitch marker. This is where the 10th chain is for me. You know, I made 20 chains on my own border. All right, the bridge, my own bridge from here is 20, so 10 on this part and 10 on this part, like I calculated it. That's why you are seeing the stitch markers here. So always make use of your stitch markers. All right, so I know that when I put my double crochets right now, I must get a count of 10 to where the stitch marker is, because that's the only way you can get the right calculation. Okay, so you go ahead now and put double crochet on each of the stitches on this part and make sure your count is right. So here I am now on my 10th stitch, so let me count it for you so you see. Don't forget, this chain 2 does not count as a stitch, so the count starts from here. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, and where my stitch marker is, I'm going to be putting my 10th stitch right there. So this is 10. So now I can go ahead to start the normal double crochet on each of the stitches all around. So now you go ahead to do exactly the same thing that you've done on this part. So go ahead now to the exact row that you have here on this other side, just doing the double crochet all around the leg. All right, me, I ended up putting 7 on my own instead of 6 like I initially started with, but I wanted it a little bit longer, so I added 1 more row. So I have 7 rows here. So I'm going to go ahead now to put 7 rows on this other part, and when I'm done with my work, I'll come back to show you how it's looking. All right, Okay, so I'm done putting the 7 rows on my shorts, on the second leg of the shorts. So this is how it's looking now, all done. So I went ahead to put a single crochet on the top of the band because I like how it makes it look firm. You can do that, or you can just let your own be like that. And I went ahead to do the drawstring. So you go ahead now and chain up whatever we go around the waist that you've made. I made 250 for my own, but this is actually optional. If you like, you can actually go with an elastic band at the top. In my previous video, I made a tutorial on how you can put an elastic band on your crochet project. I'm going to put the link below. So if that is the option that you're going for, it will all come out beautifully. All right, I just like how the string looks here. That's why I'm going with the string. So this is the full thing. This is how it's looking. So beautiful. So you go ahead now and sew in your ends, and you will be done with your shorts. You can actually turn this into a trouser pants if you like, or whatever design you want to put at the bottom anyhow, but this is just the basic pattern to making a short or a trouser, one of them anyways. All right, though, we've gotten to the end of today's tutorial. If this video helped in any way, make sure you like the video and subscribe to my channel. And if you have any questions, you can put it on the comment section. I will be happy to help. All right, so until next time, bye bye.